State. Of course, our moderator, Mrs. Folusho Laniyan, OON, FIOD, the Program Director for Agra, Innovate, West Africa. I'm particularly delighted to note that this team of experts in their various endeavors brings to us today the wealth of knowledge and decades of experience. I'm indeed very proud to welcome every one of you here today to share your experiences and contribute meaningfully to this discourse. I also wish to welcome all other eminent personalities, our guests, our associates, and friends of our institute at this event. Ladies and gentlemen, it is important to note that agriculture remains the backbone of the Nigerian economy, providing the main source of livelihood for most Nigerians. It is also worthy of note that this same important sector is besieged with many challenges, including an outdated land tenure system that constrains its access to land at 1.2 hectares per family household, a very low level of irrigation development, less than 1% of cropped land under irrigation, and limited adoption of research findings and technologies, amongst others. Experience has shown that the main factors undermining production include reliance on rain-fed agriculture, smallholder landholding, and low productivity due to poor planting material, low fertilizer application, and a weak agricultural extension system, among others. This situation comes with several negative consequences, including arbitrary increase in prices of agricultural products and simply lack of food, etc. It's as a result of the above scenario that we as an institute have considered it necessary to host this event to enable directors and other stakeholders have an understanding of the issues and articulate necessary steps on the way forward. Therefore, to proactively prepare for the coming planting season, this webinar is aimed at the following objectives. One, to understand the strategies to navigate the short planting season envisaged this year. Two, prepare for the challenges occasioned by the short rainy season and get clear direction on how to navigate these challenges. Three, get expert advice on seed selection and seed procurement. Four, gain insights on government interventions and opportunities for farmers in the planting year. And five, plan the planting season appropriately and learn more about effective distribution of produce. It is expected that the Institute will work with teams of relevant stakeholders in collaboration with the government to address the issues that will come out of this event. Our distinguished directors, leaders, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to accordingly encourage all of us to participate actively in this webinar and take advantage of the enormous wealth of experience of our panelists and, of course, our moderator. I wish to thank the chairman and members of the Agriculture and Agro-Allied Committee of IOD Nigeria, as well as the management of this IOD Secretariat for organizing this wonderful and timely event. I thank you all for your attention. Please do not forget, COVID is still very much around with us. Please keep safe and stay healthy. God bless you.
Thank you very much, President Chief Kunowo FIOD. Now, to get the ball rolling, it is my pleasure now to introduce our moderator for this event, and it's no other than Mrs. Folusho Olaniyan, OON, who is the CEO of Contact Consulting Nigeria and Program Director, Agri Innovate, West Africa. Mrs. Olaniyo is an independent director on the board of Odua Investment Company Limited. She is a current chairman, Sultry International Company Limited, an agro-allied company in Oyo State with giant strides in the production of various cassava-based industrial products. She started her career with AG Leventis Group in 1988, and she rose to be head of sales and marketing in 2001 until she joined UTC in 2005 and was appointed the managing director CEO in 2007, a post she held until 2018. She served as a consultant to the World Economic Forum Grow Africa project on data assessment of maize, soya bean, coffee selectors in Tanzania, Ghana, and Ethiopia in 2017. She also served as a member of the Project Advisory Council of Basics, a 4-year project cassava seed system economic project funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. From 2017 to 2020, she led an advocacy team on the Agro $240,000 funded policy reform project titled Advocacy for the Passage of the Fertilizer Control Bill, the Nigerian Independent Warehouse Regulatory Agency Bill, and the President assent to the Nigerian State Council Bill from 2018 to 2020. She is a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Marketing UK and a fellow of the Institute of Directors. She holds a master's degree in public administration from the University of Lagos and professional postgraduate diploma in marketing from the Chartered Institute of Marketing program, United Kingdom. He is a member of the Ekiti State University Governing Council and chairman Public-Private Partnership Committee. In recognition of her contribution to the Nigerian food industry, she was awarded National Honors of the Officer of the Order of the Niger in September 2014 by the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce our moderator for this program, Mrs. Folusho Olaniyo, OON. So, Ms. Olaniyo.
Thank you very much, sir. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, thank you very much,
Yes, we can hear you.
President and Chairman of the Agro-Allied Committee. I'm delighted to be here today. Do I go on, sir?
Please continue. You have the floor. The program is yours.
Okay. All right. Yes, we have a rich panel today, and our panelists cut across the 3 pillars of agriculture. We have an expert in production. We have an expert in food marketing and logistics. And then we have an expert in policy. So I'm going to ask all our 3 distinguished panelists to give a welcome note and introduce themselves one after the other. I'm going to start with Professor Lateef Sani. Can you please introduce yourself and share your vision for the Nigerian outlook of the 2021 planting season? Professor Sani.
And I thank the chairman of the board for inviting me. I'm Lateef Oladimeji Sani. I'm the project manager of the Basics 2 with International Institute of Tropical Agriculture. My vision is for the Nigerian farmers to have access to quality and drought-tolerant seeds that could be able to enhance their productivity and generate more income and also help us in sustainable development of our nation. If we're able to get it right, this will feed into most of the industries that are adding value to our agricultural commodity.
Hello? Hello?
You're audible, ma.
Okay, Professor Sani, thank you for the introduction. I would move on to Dr. Debo Akonde. Dr. Akonde, please can you introduce yourself and share your vision for the Nigerian outlook of the 2021 planting season? Please unmute, Dr. Akonde, we can't hear you.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Chairman of the Board. My name is Debo Akonde. I am the head of Agribusiness for IIT for Sub-Saharan Africa. I doubled as the executive advisor to His Excellency, the Governor of Oyo State on Agribusiness. My vision, is to see a development of a system that supports industrial agriculture, whereby we can focus on how commercial agriculture and smallholder farmers can meet together and adopt the use of a modern technology to enhance productivity that could mitigate against the issue of climate change and all what have you within the ag space in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll move on to Ayodeji Balogun, is the CEO of the Effects, the Commodity Exchange. Please, Deji, can you introduce yourself and share your vision for the Nigerian outlook of the 2021 planting season?
My name is Ayodeji Balogun. I'm a commodity trader. I'm the CEO of FX Commodities Exchange. It is my vision for a food secure country, a season that leads into bountiful harvest for all the grains, legumes, all seeds and tubers that we produce, and vegetables as well. Thriving livestock, a peaceful, secure value chain. Primarily one, when I think of the vision is one where farmers can manage their climate risks a lot better, where they can hedge their price risk and they can be protected from market volatility. Thank you.
Thank you. Interesting. In its 2021 seasonal climate prediction, the report just released, the Nigerian Meteorological Agency has pointed out that regions around the Niger Delta, including rivers and Cross River in the southeast coast, would witness the longest planting season, which could prolong beyond 290 days. Professor Sonny, given the fact that most food is still produced by smallholders, subsistence farmers who operate small farms in separate places, and they produce a wide array of products and they produce at slightly different times, are there prospects that they could benefit from the weather forecasts and report to help inform them on the best times to plant and to harvest, so that they avoid greater pre-harvest and post-harvest losses? How are they to benefit from this 290 days planting season predicted? Prof. Professor Sonny, the question is for you. Maybe Dr. Debo Akonde would take it while we wait for Prof to reconnect.
Thank you very much, Madam. I think for me, it's a situation we found ourselves that we should have been well prepared for, because in reality, climate change is not something that is just happening yesterday. With the British government in Nigeria around 2006, 2007 for close to around 4 years. And this same issue has been recurring. So our own preparedness is one of the major problem that is impacting on us as it is today. However, as we have been has been well highlighted, we are looking at what are the solutions, to some of these impediments. Critically, I think what we need to do is to see how best we can work via our extension services. able to disseminate information that is very related to climate change to all these smallholder farmers. The best way to reach the smallholder farmers is through extension services. Extension services could be in form of the physical extension services or technology extension services, using telephony or what have you in terms of technology. If we are able to do that, because climate change in itself is a problem, but when you have an adaptation or mitigation approach, within a country or within a system, then you could mitigate against it. So if we have such an approach that we can adopt, then we can make use of it to give probably a kind of an early warning, to the farmers to understand the variation that is taking place in terms of rainfall or temperature or rainfall pattern. But where this is not applicable or available, then it becomes a major problem. Beyond that as well, I think for me, I think critically, it is high time that private companies at medium and large level, or small and medium and large level, start getting engaged with what happened in the space of agriculture in this country. This space has been dominated for a very long time by micro enterprises. Lots of people talk about smallholder farmers being the one that cultivate close to around 90%, if not more, of what we are doing. They are around 70% of who produce food in this country. But in reality, those kind of actors can no longer sustain the kind of population we have, the kind of dynamism that we have within our population any longer. And we require that a kind of an infusion, in the middle by much of the large and medium enterprises or small enterprises. Micro enterprises, as we know, focus much more on will start looking at things from a business dimension and practicality of it. So if this has been in place and if this can be infused into the system, especially in the downstream or the production side, then we'll start seeing them having the technology or the know-how that is required to mitigate against issue of climate change within our society or ag space. So that would be my own thought at this particular point in time. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Akonde. I think Professor Sunny is back. Prof, I'll put the next question to you. Please, can you unmute, Prof? And the question is, how are bigger and commercial farms able to take advantage of weather forecasts to avoid losses related to climate change on farm and off farm? That's pre-harvest and post-harvest. Professor Sunny, are you back? And if you're still trying to reconnect, Ayodeji, can you answer this?
Yes, definitely. So again, when you look at larger corporates or markets that have matured in terms of production, and foremost, I must agree with Dr. Akonde and his precise point about the need for larger farms to produce us. I am a big advocate for what I call small and medium, small to medium commercial farms. In essence, farms that are between 50 hectares to 150 hectares, and then that becomes the tipping point where you can start mechanization and you can really be a driver of innovation in agriculture. And then when we have a lot of these, and I feel like these people will then grow into becoming the large commercial farms that we'll desire, which is an evolution we've seen operate in Southern Africa. And then you see the farmers in South Africa also evolving to Zambia and Mozambique and a few other supporting neighboring countries. So this is what we need. If we continue to produce with a completely smallholder farmer-led agriculture, we will continue to produce at import parity at best. Food prices will continue to be high because we will not be able to drive innovation. You need that critical business size to be able to then start to drive innovation and grow food profitably. Now, how can these businesses operate better, and what structure do they need? So there are 2 to 3 strategies when you look at things. So first, a bigger business has better cash flow. It can take insurance products because it's investing a lot more. And today there are climate smart insurance products that will pay a coupon for you. I'll pay you an insurance payout based on triggers that are measured by NASA. So we get our farmers all insured with an insurance product like that. And we don't need to know who had a risk. We just get a payout and says these are the number of farmers. XYZ had heat wave between this month to this. XYZ had rainfall above the tolerance within this month. And then they get the premium and then they compensate them for the losses to be incurred. So that's one basket. The second basket is that when you have a larger farm, you can invest in seeds that have improved seeds, hybrid seeds that either are drought tolerant, which then means that when you have rainfall drop, the seed can withstand that time, or the ones that could adapt better. You can also start to invest in post-harvest storage, which is a critical part. So last year, meaning the 2019-2020 planting season, we did have we lost about 10% of the crop that we produce. 10% of Nigeria's grain crop is over 1 million metric tons. Is around what we lost due to post-harvest losses. And these post-harvest losses were just because the rains did not stop around October in the northern Nigeria when they do. It extended up until November. And then it meant that the heaps were right there. They were supposed to be, the grains were mature, and it kept raining. And then all the grains, a lot of the grains went to waste. This is has a value of about $200 million that is lost as a country. Now, if you look at this last season as well, you found that in August there was a dry spell in August in the southern hemisphere, and a lot of crops in southern Nigeria was lost. Now, these are some of the things that when you have hybrid seeds and as a larger enterprise, a larger farming enterprise, you can invest more, and also you can access other sort of commercial interventions that then support you to be able to, adopt these innovations.
Yeah. Talking about inputs, about seeds, Dr. Akonde, critical farm inputs, they don't get to many farmers on time, like the herbicides, pesticides, seeds, and fertilizers. And with this short planting season, if most of these inputs don't get to them on time, their strategy, to capitalize on getting the best of this short season may not work. And much of these supplies are done commercially by the private sector. There are tips to be shared to help both the sellers and buyers to find common ground in terms of supplies, demand, and affordability. So, from your experience, what are those things that, the commercial seed sellers, the input seed sellers that are commercial need to do, and how do they work with farmers to get the inputs to them on time? So that, it's not that they've lost half of the planting season before the inputs get to them. What strategy can be put in place, to work for both the sellers and the buyers of inputs?
Thank you very much. I want to build on what Mr. Balogun presented, but let me digress a little bit to the precise of the question that you asked. One critical factor remains that we still engage in agricultural practices that are not well organized. Okay, even small levels. With the exception of the fact that we have a good number of them that are built under some kind of a cooperatives, that are built under some kind of a cooperatives. In reality, people just do their things in isolation. So it becomes a bit difficult to even have an understanding of the volume of the input that is even required within a particular year for farming in a particular area, within our country for a particular crop. If I asked now and I said, okay, what is the volume of input that is required for maize production in let's say, Kaduna? We have all those data in place, to show that, okay, in Kaduna this year, we will need close to around 1 million metric tons of whatever, or some number of bags of fertilizer. That is not in place, and if anybody have that, I would be quite surprised, that it is in the public space. Now, in terms of what needs to be done, at this particular point in time, I think the suppliers need to also start understanding that it is not just the work of the government to do everything. They also have responsibility. It's about business. So if you do want to, you need to understand your market and understand the kind of the market stratification and the kind of the need, from the market as well. To do that, if I were a supplier, I will need to have a very good understanding of even what is the demand, for that particular crops that we need the input for. So much more of a kind of a demand driven at this particular point in time. Now, if you want to understand what the demand of a crop is within a, let's say, a state, let's not even call it the country. Let's look at the state specifically where those maize or whatever maize has been produced. You need to kind of probably do a kind of a forecast or look back in a year or two and say, what did they produce? What was the shortfall? And in reality, what are the things that are left to be produced, and what kind of input? And you then need to have an understanding of where does the farmer lies. Are they well grouped? Are they in cooperative? Are they under some kind of a private engagement? If be able to pull together, your figure and then determine what is required within that particular society. So I think that is very essential. The supplier themselves, beyond the government, of course, this should ordinarily have been the government responsibility to have all those data in place. But if it's not there, the suppliers as well should come together. As I believe most of the of what should be done in that particular area for input supply.
Thank you, Dr. Akonde. Thank you. Professor Sonny, many rural communities that are considered food baskets, they still lack access to markets. And so they incur huge post-harvest losses. What are those things to be done to help these farmers out in the present circumstances, based on your experience on Basics project?
One observation we found is that most of the rural farmers or processors are not operating as a group. Because for you to have access to market, you need information. And the only way that you can get information is if you belong to an association or you belong to a cooperative or something just like what the boy is saying. Two, instead of carrying most of our agricultural produce out of the rural environment, there's the need for us to promote the rural transformation up, for us to add value to those products. So if you are unable to get the market this week, you will get market next week so that you can be able to preserve it without allowing it to get lost. The third point is the issue of aggregation. The aggregators today have information of who will be the off-takers. And this is another possible means of getting information on markets to be able to sell. And so the rural farmers or rural smallholder groups need to work with the aggregators too to be able to get access to their produce that they will be able to sell at any particular point in time. Thank you.
Thank you. One step further, Prof, as the project manager of the Basics project, what is your project strategy to ensure optimum yields and returns to cassava farmers and village seed entrepreneurs working with your project Basics in the cassava value chain?
Well, the strategy is for us to be able to cluster farmers together and make sure that they have access to affordable quality seeds. At present now, we are revolving around 8 to 11 tons per hectare of our cassava compared to Thailand and all other countries that are getting 25 to 40 tons per hectare. At the project level, some of our farmers are producing 20, 30 tons per hectare. And our goal is to be able to extend it to other farmers to be able to have opportunities on that. How do you do that? You have quality seeds. You combine with agro inputs, quality one and on time, and you also apply good agricultural practices. If you're able to do this, definitely the farmers will be able to get more income and profit from the enterprise.
Thank you. Dr. Akonde, this is for you because you wear two hats, IITA, research institution, and then you represent your state government as SSA. The issue of insecurity has swept through the various zones of Nigeria, making the rural farming countryside unsafe. And it has led to internal displacement of farmers in many states. I don't think any state is left out. With a better and well thought out security arrangement, food production is expected to be stable. That is if insecurity is reined in. So what security measures should we expect to reverse this trend and make the farmers feel safe? Dr. Akonde.
Thank you very much, madam. And I think this is probably one of the burning issue around the agricultural space that we find ourselves in. Again, I would say that it is probably based on I mean, not the insecurity itself, but the ability for the issue to thrive well within those areas is actually came out of our negligence, over a long period of time. Now, why do I say that? If we check very well most of our national development plans, and for those that have it, and those at the federal and the state level, if we read through it very well, we realize that most of these national development plan or state development plan are very, very much urban-centric development plan. What most states even do at the point in time is to probably copy one of the states that has a robust development plan and think that they can implement similar plan in their different states as well. And for example, some set of states in the Southwest can look at Lagos State and just copy what they do and want to do the same thing in their own state, not putting in perspective the demography, of the area where they're coming from and that of a Lagos State. Now, if you have a state where a high percentage of your area is highly rural or peri-urban, like we have in Oyo State, I think it is essential for you to start developing what we call the rural development plan and strategy, within those particular, for your state. I mean, we don't have any, according to what I have, with regards to Oyo State, we are currently just working on that of recent. And that is going to give you a more holistic approach into handling the issue in the rural area beyond just handouts and snippets. And that would show you how you can develop a human development plan, how you can do economic development plan for the area, physical development plan that is rural. It's going to help you to do environmental development. What have you? You have forests all over the place that you don't know what is in the forest, that there's no strategy that is designed to man or to manage the forest. And so you create an environment where such a thing can thrive. So I think the first thing we need to look at, unfortunately, that is a long time, not a short time, is for all those states to start sitting down and work with experts to develop what we call the rural development strategy or plan. That is number one. But at short time as well, there are so many of us are aware of what has been done in the southwestern part of Nigeria with Amotekun. Amotekun is not a silver bullet. It's not a solution to all the problem. But this outfit was actually put in place before this issue of security becoming spiral. If the state are given the support, the resources to strengthen this local base, what we call a kind of a security outfit, to expand beyond what they currently have. I know Ondo State, Ekiti, if I'm right, has done, Ogun has followed suit. But in terms of numbers, the numbers that they currently have now cannot, not strong enough to do what is required to do. The primary reason why they were established in the first place was to man the rural areas and to provide local intelligence, for manning those areas. And the capacity is not enough to man such an area. Using Oyo as an example, you can imagine that Oyo all of the southeast of Nigeria in terms of landmass. So if you're providing resources in terms of security to Oyo that you are providing for Habia or Imo, then you know that there's already a problem. It's not just bigger than the whole of the southeast of Nigeria in terms of landmass. It is equivalent to the same, I mean, bigger than the whole of the land size of Rwanda as a country. That's your state. So if the right resources is not provided for the state to provide the right security apparatus for the state, then it becomes a problem. And that is a state that has a high rural area. So that, to me, I think is another area that we need to focus on beyond the issue of rural development. But thirdly, I also think that it is essential for us, again, that goes back to the entry point into this webinar. And I believe that the other guest has also highlighted that very well. Mr. Balogun and Professor Sonny also said that we need to move away from gradually away from subsistence farming to a more cohesive, well-structured agricultural practices. Now, I've laid this example in the past. If you've ever been privileged to live in a developed country or overseas, as we refer to, and Nigeria, you know that houses in those communities are not fenced. But here in Nigeria, we have our houses fenced. There will be reasons why you have houses in all those kind of a community that are fenced, and how houses here are not fenced. Supermarkets here, in most cases, big supermarkets don't even have fences. You walk into those supermarkets, buy what you need to buy, but I doubt if there is anybody that will have a company in any urban area here that will not have them fenced. I think it's high time for us to start understand that agriculture is getting to that area as well, where we have to start engaging in a fenced, a kind of a protected environment, shall I say, for agriculture. And that to a very large extent can save situation. However, this cannot be the solution for the smallholder farmers. We're just saying that if we change our focus from what is current practice to a more modern approach in agricultural practices, then
Hello, Dr. Akonde. I think he has challenges with his network. While we wait for him, Ayodeji, from the government and private sector perspectives, how can Nigeria ramp up production of basic staples in 2021, given the unmet needs of consumers in the previous year?
The first and probably most important part of what we need to do is to make fertilizer available across the country. And unfortunately, we are 3 months already late for that. We know that fertilizer is one of the most active ingredients, and probably the one that we can do within a short period of. There's been significant improvement over the last 3 to 4 years in the fertilizer value chain. We've grown from about 5 to 6 blending plants about 5 years ago to over 40 now as we speak. Over 40 of them are producing the NPK blends in country. We've moved from a country that imports finished fertilizer to one that now imports raw materials and blend. And there's some big announcements on investments that are coming in the fertilizer space for processing some of the raw materials that we do have naturally endowed on. There is also, the announcement of a new urea plant, 2 new plants, one additional to an existing operator, and then 1 new mainstream line that should get us into urea production of about 6 million metric tons as a country, meaning that we will be selling to the entire sub-region and maybe even a few other continents as well. So, but then the fundamental thing of us having district fertilizer available and increase our consumption of fertilizer locally has not been successfully solved for, despite all the progress. So farmers today are paying 3 times what they paid same time last year for fertilizer. And that's a challenge. And that's probably the only thing we could do within the next sort of 4 to 6 weeks to have a meaningful influence on production, because we're in May, or May is a few days from us, so the rains are here. The first round of planting in the southern Nigeria should have commenced. while in the north will commence by next month.
Thank you. Professor Sonny, as you reflect on the agricultural sector, what specific opportunities do you think exists for farmers and aggregators in this current 2021 planting season? And what are the challenges you believe can stifle the opportunities? Prof.
Well, the number one opportunity that we have now is this COVID-19 has created problem for raw materials to enter into Nigeria. So most of the off-taker industries are actually looking for raw materials, which is a good opportunity. Even the retail establishment like ShopRites, they are looking for vegetables to sell, and this is an opportunity for farmers to plant. The second point is that either we like it or not, the price of commodities is increasing every day. And to farmers, is an opportunity for them to quickly latch on it, especially short duration crops like maize, soya bean, and some other crops like that. The top point is seems to be working now when they are activities. So Ogun State is a case study, is a successful concept. And this is an opportunity for farmers, youth to be able to plant and move on. The infrastructural development that are also taking place from some states, like Ogun State now, we have the cargo airport. The Oyo State has already also started cargo airport. Kwara, I was in Kwara, and I know that they are latching on the agro processing zones of the African Development Bank. Either Kaduna or Kano is a good opportunity for our farmers to actually latch on in 2021 planting season. The challenges, the first one, which you ask Debo, is the issue of security. The second major critical point is the red tape in use of credit facilities. How and when will the farmers have access to the expected loan? No matter how small, matters a lot. Yes, a lot of government officials have announced the infrastructural development. When will they complete most of them? Because the roads are still not too good for farm produce to move. And the issue of climate change is a serious issue too. That is a challenge to the farmers. So that one is solvable because we now have drought-tolerant crops. Farmer can actually get through IIT and some other national institutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Dr. Akonde, this is for you, and I hope from the government perspective, you are able to actually give an insight and give some comfort to those who are in the maize sector. The CBN's decision on the cessation of approval of Form M for maize importation to augment local production has upset the balance in maize supplies and prices since October 2020. Given the sharp rise in prices and reduction in supply since then, which provided huge opportunities for local production, are there areas or coordinated efforts at any level of government to seize the opportunities and ramp up local production of maize as a major staple for humans and as a major raw material for poultry feeds?
Thank you very much, Madam. I think the policy is a good policy, but whether the policy is good at the time that it was brought in place or not is another thing that is questionable. Considering the impact of the COVID-19 throughout last year, that has a major impact on production as well. We need to
Hello? Hello? for maize importation to augment local production, it has upset the balance in maize supplies and prices since 2020. And given the sharp rise in prices and reduction in supplies, it's provided huge opportunities for local production. Are there areas of coordinated efforts at any level of government to seize the opportunities and ramp up local production of maize as a major staple for humans and a major raw material for poultry feeds? I think Dr. Akonde is back.
Yes.
So after Dr. Akonde, we want your perspective too, Ayodeji.
I thought I was going to get off your hook.
You won't. So Dr. Akonde, over to you. Hello, Dr. Akonde.
If the internet is still allowed,
Okay,
can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Can
Yes,
you hear me?
we
I
can.
think the
Yes.
connectivity is quite poor.
Yes, we can
Okay,
hear you.
so what I said earlier was that I think we need to consistently ensure that we don't put policy in place in isolation, but to ensure that we understand the other dependent factor to policy that we want to put in place. When you're talking about the policy on maize, have we thought about how this is going to impact on the poultry industry, especially with the COVID-19 issue? And so, I mean, all these issues are there. But having said that, I think I know quite well that at the state level, I don't know about federal level, that a good number of states are also getting engaged, in ensuring that they put a cohesive system in place to increase their output in terms of maize production. But we should also put in perspective that maize production is not something that takes place optimally in all states due to the climatic variations in all those places. There are a good number of states within the country that could produce maize well, and there are others that they will not do optimally well. So if we are talking about production in the southwest of Nigeria, maybe we're just making reference to a place like Oyo State and much more in Okyogun area of Oyo State, and probably Kaduna, that is known to be a high maize producer in the country, along with some other states as well. So I know that a couple of other states are working, increasing their output. I know because of what happened last year, a lot of private investors are also getting engaged in the production of maize now. So that we have a data on what we expect in terms of volume of maize production based on some of our analysis within the state, not just maize and some other crops as well, and we're working towards that. So I know a couple of states are doing that. Whether that will be enough to meet what is required within the country is another thing entirely. I will have wished that when such a policy is put in place, they also put in place a system, to mitigate against the impact of such policy, as it were. I mean, overall, at a long term, it's a good policy, but at short term, especially with the COVID-19 issues, well, there's a bit of a question mark on it.
Thank you, Dr. Akonde. Ayodeji, is there a question mark on the policy, and what's your approach?
So maize pays my salary. So whatever happens in maize, I'm always concerned about. 85% of the volume through our exchange is maize, and we are the largest aggregator and even financer of maize farmers in the country. So definitely it's a very important crop to us. Then what happens to the downstream in terms of the processors definitely affects us. We're in a situation where the total production of maize is between 10 to 11 million metric tons for the country. Demand is about 11.5. So depending on where statistics, where the market settles, we're typically in a deficit of about 5%. Now, that's not, that doesn't show the full picture. When you look at the industrial consumption of maize, so the poultry sector alone uses about 3 million metric tons of grains. So, naturally, the farmer, household consumption's primary markets are always the first to clear out and settle. So when there is a deficit, the sector that affects it the most is the livestock sector, and then the breakfast, food and beverage sector next to that. Now, the policy in itself, we cannot exclude from other macro variables, scarcity of dollars, depletion of our reserves. and the decision to then protect it. So that's core in terms of why the policy. Was the timing appropriate? Could it have been better managed? Again, as an economist, I would say when you're bleeding, the first, when you have a sore foot, the first thing is to stop the bleeding. So, which is the approach that I think the central bank has taken. As a business person, I would say, what can we do? If we have 1 million farmers that can grow at 5 metric tons per hectare instead of 2 metric tons per hectare, we would have 3 million metric tons more. And Kaduna State alone, or Kaduna and Katsina State alone, can give us this addition. If we have 3 million metric tons per hectare, we'll be talking about dollar revenue and selling maize to countries like Ghana and who also consumes a lot of maize, by the way, but then imports from all the way from Mexico, Argentina. So that's a more substantive way to look at things more holistically, but then that requires planning, and that's never something you get done in a year. That's something you plan by a medium-term frame, which is sort of where we have an issue in terms of agriculture policy. Now, in terms of what palliatives has happened in the industry, because one of the things that the central bank has done is to create a grain stabilization program, a maize stabilization program primarily for this year, to ensure that certain processors in the year will not have the same level of shock that they had last year in terms of lack of availability of products, but also to primarily be able to manage the prices so that it doesn't go very high. So what happened is that through our warehouse receipts, we're able to lock for the central bank certain forward contracts on maize for the year. Now, those forward contracts are now being exposed to processors in the grain value chain. So there's been 3 settlements that has happened, and all the top players and as well as all the poultry associations of Nigeria are members of that poultry association of Nigeria have been able to buy through this window and then get this product delivered at prices that are below the open markets. Because they've been locked forward from harvest. Now, what that starts to be is that it reduces the volatility you see, and this is the future. So for us, we're so deliberate about ensuring that by this time next year, we have maize futures that are traded, a derivatives contracts, where any processor in grains and sorghum, for that matter, which is very critical to the livestock sector, but also the food and beverage sector, can lock up their annual supply through forward contracts or futures contracts, and then lock in the price for the year. So this is sort of where we need to be as a sector, bringing in technology, bringing in capital markets, innovative finance to support agriculture.
Thank you. We've had a lot of questions being sent to us, and it's question and answer time. So if there are other participants who have questions, please send them to the chat box. Some questions have been emailed in, and the first one is to Professor Sonny. And the question is, may I ask how one gets to know various farm groups or societies, the farm aggregators for each state? So Professor Sonny, that question is for you.
Well, I think number one strategy is which of the commodities are you interested in? In the country, we have a formidable all farmer association, AFAN, and they are in all the states. And you can get their contact through Ministry of Agriculture. If you do not do that, you can get their contact through state agricultural development programs. It's another formidable organization strengthened by World Bank. Now, there are specific organizations too, like Poultry Association of Nigeria. They cut across all states. Cassava Grower Association of Nigeria and several rice refine. They are all in all the states. Either Ministry of Agri or even Trade and Industry and ADPs If you are unable to get to that, go to the State Chamber of Commerce. You will get all the list, including the aggregators. The Chamber of Commerce can link you up with major aggregators that we have in the state. If perchance you do not want to go to that, you can link up with the Institute of Directors. They will link up with us. Folusor also is closer to some of these databases. The Agra Innovate. Every year we meet in November. And these are several ways we can actually share information.
Thank you, Prof. The second part of the question for you is there a process for accessing quality seeds and farm inputs?
Yes. In fact, that is why we have the Building Sustainable and Economically Seed System, basics, of which I'm the project manager in IIT. If you send email to us, we will link you up. We have 2 companies now that we are test running for foundation seed, and that is IIT Go Seeds in Ibadan. And we also have seed that cover the South East and South South. The email and contact will definitely do it. Secondly, if some of us in the Institute of Directors are interested in becoming commercial seed entrepreneurs, we can also work with you.
Okay, thank you, Prof. The next question is for Dr. Akonde. Dr. Akonde, someone here wants to know what support, how has your state or your states supported agro-allied companies in the states, particularly this trying COVID period? Have you been able to contact the agro-allied companies in your state? Have you given them support in terms of the welfare of their farmers and their agro schemes? Have you vaccinated any one of them? Do they have access to COVID vaccines? Dr. Akonde, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We have been able to support the agro-allies since last year when we have the COVID problem. What we did was to profile, as a matter of fact, part of the policy of His Excellency was to, I think I should start from to say that we develop what we call COVID-19 mitigation strategy, within the state. And as part of that mitigation strategy, we put in perspective the core actors, that will impact on the economy of the state. And ag sector is one of those areas that we see as a priority. I led the food security mitigation task force for COVID-19 for the state. What we did was to profile companies that are essential to agriculture and that will have perishable goods. For example, poultry industries, we ensure that we work with the security in the state to ensure free flow of transportation of their product, because at the initial stage it was an issue. There were restrictions, but with the state policy that
Dr. Akonde, I think the network, while we wait to have him back, I'll take the next question. Most farmers do not have access to finance. Is there any hope, even with the present situation as regards inflation and COVID-19? Ayodeji, can you step in?
So things are getting better. I'll almost say this and say statistically speaking. So when you look at credit, allocation of credit from commercial banks to the private, to agriculture, as part of the total allocation of credit to the private sector, we are back to sort of like our, highest level in the last sort of 10, 15 years. I think the highest was about 2013. When we reached 4.5, 4.6% allocation to agriculture. And currently we are back to that level or a bit higher than that, but still below 5%. Understanding that all banks have declared, for 2 decades, we've been trying to get all banks to get to 10% bank allocation to agriculture. So we're just around half of that target. Now, it's also important to make sure that a lot of that credit that is available today is actually central bank intervention funds passing through the banking sector, not necessarily sort of like the bank's balance sheet. So we still have a long way to go. Now, when you compare the adequacy of the fund, we're at about 450 billion naira fund in agriculture. That's paltry. It's 2% of the size of the sector. This is a sector that contributes 26% of our economy and employs close to 40% of people. So we are indeed not getting the right funding. Smallholder farmers, producers that need to get this funding aren't getting it at all. They're not even financially included. So, you can't get a bank loan when you don't have a bank account, and you can't have a bank account if you don't have BVN. So that's the nature of complexity we have. Now, on the bright side, what we've seen is an increase in sort of like the fintech's participation in agriculture. We've seen an increase in aggregator players in the aggregation space. We bring in thousands of farmers together and sort of syndicate lending to them, in addition to extension and other services that are provided. So this has been sort of where there's been hope, and it's grown in the last 3 to 4 years. But then, it has come with its challenges, and there's still a need for a lot more support to grow that space. Now, we provide products to smallholder farmers that are within and attached to our warehouses, primarily producers of grains, producers of cocoa, and in the south. I think we're doing 7,000 farmers for cocoa in Southwest, and then in Calabar as well. We are working close to, this year we're financing about 150,000 farmers in the wet season. We did finance close to 50,000 farmers in the dry season that is just concluded. So these things are happening, but it's not a scale that we need it to be.
Okay, thanks a lot. We have Dr. Akonde back. And Doctor, please, can you go ahead and tell us the other things you've put in place for agro-allied companies in Oyo State to support them this COVID season? We were informed reliably that you've actually sent a team of experts to go to some of the factories to ensure the factory workers, farm workers get the COVID vaccines. Can you shed more light on this and other things Oyo State has done to ensure they secure the stakeholders in the agribusiness sector?
Thank you very much. And I was going to get to that before the internet network become terrible. Apart from what we did last year, which we supported around 9,300 farmers, which we biometric with some kind of support from the state. We have also ensured that for large companies that have people working with them in the ag space, we've arranged for a special way of ensuring that their staffs are vaccinated across board. And we've done this for a couple of companies that have made that request to ensure that at least they're in good health while they are providing for all to eat as well. And so this will come within the state. In addition to that, I think I need to mention that through the Oyo State Agribusiness Development Agency, we have also ensured that if there are issues around things that we impede on the production or processing or work of any ag sector, which we've counted in the state in this COVID era as essential, we will be able as an organization to look at the best way to mitigate this issue. It might not even be agri-related issues, it might be things that anything that will impede in their ability to be able to do their work, as an industry or company within the ag space, that we are doing. And again, like as I mentioned, for smallholder farmers, it's the same thing. I think I need to mention that for smallholder farmers in Nigeria, spot, and this credit goes to all the states and the federal government as well. I think resources has been put in place. They are working on it, on what is called the NCARES World Bank loan that is going to be used in supporting the smallholder farmers in all the states of Nigeria. Your state is benefiting in that as well. And the idea is that industry that need resources, with some kind of crops that state has identified as essential, will be able to mitigate against the impact of the climate, of the COVID-19, around those areas. So these are some of the things that the state has been able to do to ensure that most of our companies are running well during this COVID-19 pandemic.
Thank you, Dr. Akonde. Professor Sonny, one of the participants has sent in a message that they want you to shed more light on how Basics develops commercial seed entrepreneurs, that it wasn't so clear when you mentioned it, and that is interested in learning more about this.
Well, okay, I think let me explain the basic model. Hitherto, the breeders develop crop varieties, and those varieties are ensured that they are released by the government of Nigeria. So, for instance, the beta-carotene, vitamin A, cassava, and maize that have just recently been released. Once they are released, it is now the job of the foundation and commercial seed entrepreneurs to take those breeder seeds to the commercial level. We have never have more of that opportunity for the vegetatively propagated crops like yam, cassava, potato, orange flesh, sweet potato, except that of maize, and which are more or less from European countries. So we are stimulating the enterprises at the foundation level and at the commercial level. The foundation level are the gold seed that I've said are Umudike seed. They have some equipment that general people at the commercial level may not have. Like, how do you mass produce, rapidly multiply it? You use semi-autotropic hydroponics. Instead of normal tissue culture that can take 3 months, you use something that will take about 4 weeks, 6 weeks to get a plantlet. Once we have the plantlet, you can now use greenhouse to multiply it and release it to the commercial seed entrepreneurs. For my colleagues at the Institute of Directors, I class you to be within the commercial seed entrepreneurs, where you can have 5 hectares, 10 hectares. We introduce the quality seed to you, you plant it, and then you begin to sell the stems to the root farmers who are in millions in Nigeria. So we are in some states, Cattle Relief Services is covering Benue State, Kogi State, and North Central for us. National Root Crop Research Institute in Umudike is covering Abia State, Imo State, Delta, and some other states within the Southeast South. But we, the IHA Go Seed in Ibadan, is already now working with Oyo State government, Osada, for Oyo State and Ogun State. We are being sponsored again by GIZ to strengthen the commercial seed entrepreneurs in Oyo State and Ogun State. At times, if you are not within those states, you are free to send email to us and show interest. You can start with 5 hectares and plant it, and it's a good business. The concept of what we are saying is that you are supposed to plant quality stem and sell it and make more money. That's just the concept. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. This next question is for Dr. Akonde. What mitigation process has been put in place to tackle and deter herdsmen from invading farmlands? This is an ongoing concern for potential investors. Dr. Akonde. Dr. Akonde, I think is offline. Ayodeji, from your perspective, before Dr. Akonde comes back, what do you think should be put in place to tackle and deter herdsmen from invading farmlands?
So I do have a controversial view on this, a non-popular one, I would say. So, pardon me, but I'll express it anyway. My view is that this is a fundamental resource constraint. The cattle migration from the north to the south happens every year. It's happened for centuries and decades. In fact, I know very well that there is a road from Sokoto all the way through Imeko, passing behind Abeokuta, that leads straight into Agege. It's not a motorable road, but it's a road that has been plowed for almost 2 centuries across the Trans-Sahara Trade Corridor. Now, these things have existed, right? So why is it that it's today that we are having these security challenges? And 2 answers fundamentally. Now, a lot of people have the view that it's politically inclined and things like that. My view is that we're getting into a point where the land that was available and was sufficient enough for both the farmers to plant as well as the cattle herders to be able to then graze. Now, all the forest reserves have been filled without a replacement. All the natural grazing reserves have been encroached by urbanization. So what is only left now for both the livestock sector as well as the production sector to share is the only arable land available for cultivation, hence the conflict. And for me, until we look at it from an economic standpoint and say, how do we manage this resource constraint? What are the incentives and how do we align incentives? We'll continue to have this problem. Now, do I agree that the southern states should be a lot more protectionist and should cater for their own core agriculture? Yes, I do agree. Can we ban a certain tribe from moving and doing business around the country? No, I do not agree. Because it's a federation, we're a country, and everybody should have a license to do business across the country. Should people then harm other people in their way of doing business and earning? Absolutely not. That shouldn't happen. But until we're able to come back and be sort of objective around this, I think we'll continue to grapple with the symptoms. But I agree that my view is not very popular.
Well, Professor Sonny, can we have your views on this, please?
Yes, I think what all of us are doing, we are doing a lot of the service to the nation. The core strength of our agroecological zone, the north, is well suitable for livestock dairy production and should be strengthened to do so. The era of carrying cattle for 1,000 kilometers is gone. And what is the breed of such cattle and what is their productivity at the end of the day? Currently, we move around with the agro-processing zone now. Kaduna, Kano, Kwara, they are picking to now have their cattle ranches because Lagos, for instance, need about 2 million cattle. And Kaduna, Kwara has already gone into MOU with Lagos State to set up a cattle processing zone in Lata, in Kwara State, which is the home of cattle ordinarily, but highly neglected. The roads are dilapidated by the time we went there. No development in that environment. But if Kwara is able to get it well through the AFD loan and the IFAD loan, and Kaduna get it right, and Kano get it money to do so. Cattle in the north, dairy in the north. You come to the south, southeast. Southeast is palm produce, which we neglected for Malaysia. Have different pictures of Nigeria and our core strength. How could you be rearing a pig in Kano? Which market do you want to sell it? And we now say that we have freedom to move anywhere. Can I go to, I was in Anambra State. I could not see any, how much major tribes are in Anambra State, apart from the Igbos. So that we will now, just all of us are begging the issue. The concept is that let us keep to our strength. Let us keep to our strength. And you can pump Nigerian money to develop it. But to me, scientifically and evidence-based, we are not doing the right thing the way all of us are going.
Thank you, Prof. Dr. Akonde, can we have your views?
I'm sorry, I lost you a bit, on that. I want to understand what the view is. I think this is about the issue of cattle rearing or something.
Yeah,
correct?
that what has been put in place to tackle and deter herdsmen from invading farmlands. And this is an ongoing concern for potential investors.
I think I had Professor Sonny up onto a point, when he was talking about agribusiness industrial hubs. Before even the AFDB SAPZ, Oyo State has started with what we call the agribusiness industrial hubs. I think it's quite popular within the state. They refer to it as farm estates. And what we are doing is to develop contiguous lands, protected, that is meant for both crop production and livestock production as well. The way it's designed, a lot has been said about Fashola. I even saw a documentary about Fashola, well known across the whole of the Southwest, that was built by Chief Obafemi Awolowo, primarily meant for livestock production for the whole of the Southwest, or part of the Southwest, and has been neglected for years. So we've started from that particular location. As of this morning, I know that close to around 300 hectares of land has been cleared within that particular location. We are designing it completely to be for crop production, specific crop production, and specific livestock in our area of comparative advantage in the state. So we are not just doing one, we are doing close to around 3. SAPZ1 is coming, that is making it 4. And ours is to showcase this for private sector to start building similar thing across our state where we have the resources. This will be a game changer as far as I'm concerned, because we will be doing livestock the way it should be done. I'm aware that private sector has also started engaging in developing ranches. We'll be visiting a particular ranch tomorrow, that some of my colleagues has visited within the state, and has been done by a private entity, and in Oyo State, built well, like any modern ranch, growing the feed, stock of the ranch within its environment and things like that. We want to promote more of that within the state. And I think when that kind of a competition arises, and this is a protected environment, and then we'll see what is going to happen. What I think is that we complain a lot about the others issue, and we have a right to complain about that. But the question we were asked is that who are the consumer? Who is the market? We are the market. So if there's no market here, I doubt if they will be flocking to this place as they have been flocking. So but we create a system whereby we start producing livestock the way we should do it, then we'll do it. The second thing I need to mention is that when we talk about livestock, I think we zero our mind a lot just on cattle. I got very exposed into agriculture by one of my aunts, one of my dad's sister, a very old woman now, that gave me a goat when I was in primary 6. Of course, we came from a kind of a middle-class home, and rearing goats was not something so nice then, but because she was my aunt, we were allowed. By the time I got to, I think it was a class 3 or so, I have close to around 40 goats, and that was where I understood too well. I started having an idea of what agriculture is all about. Now, where are we in terms of goatry? Even we, which is some of our own comparative advantage. During the layer, called, that we kill in the south. Did we put it, and we know how much we spent, on ram, on all those things, during all those festivals. How much of that have we also think about in terms of livestock? We all think that livestock is all about cattle. We are developing a system, homestead, to support homestead system for goatry, and then the contiguous areas that I mentioned in terms of ranching for many other aspects of the livestock as well. I think if we do this over a period of time, I mean, sometimes last year I was in France with His Excellency, the governor of state, and we went there to go and review some things that has to do on the invitation of the French government, and we saw cows. It's a kind of an exhibition of farm produce, and we saw goats that were breeded for meat production. And if you see them, you will even be marveled, you know. And we right there and then understood that goat milk, one, is more nutritious than even the cattle milk, and it's more expensive in areas where it's been breeded. So what are we doing about that in this society? So my point is that, one, yes, we are doing all this contiguous ranching, you know, that is necessary to be done, but also we need to look at what is very local to us in terms of livestock and alone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Akonde. A question from the audience. They want to know if the land at Fashola is available for individuals.
I think that is a very good question. So we have three approaches in Oyo State that we are adopting for our agribusiness overall. The first one is what we call the government developed and private sector managed. And the second approach is what we call the private sector developed and government supported. And the last one is what we call the smallholder cost sharing approach. Interestingly, Professor Sonny here is one of the people that work together to develop that strategy for your state. And the first one is where we are talking about the issue of a contiguous land being built on agribusiness industrial, which is the government build and private sector manage. What that means is that when the government finish building Fashola, we are going to pull a call expression of interest out to private sector. A good number of private sector has been sending their proposal to us. Now we are reviewing it. We are going through the right processes of engagement, technical review, business review with Oyo State Public-Private Partnership and Investment Promotion Agency. And what we'll do is that every single end managed by private sector. All what the state will do is to be a shareholder in all the business based on the valuation of what we are put in it as
Dr. Akonde, I think, are you back, Dr. Akonde? Okay, I'll move on to the next question. Professor Sonny, someone is interested in being a seed entrepreneur and they want to know how to go about it. Is Dr. Akonde back? So Professor Sonny, please, how can they become seed entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think I've already put a test for all of us, and they can. Folusho used to be a member of the steering committee of the seed projects, and she still have a high level of influence. Folusho, she will contact us. What will make it faster is for Institute of Directors to have, it may be 5, 10, 15 people interested. Then we can organize a kind of either we bring them to IIT and show them some of these things, or we organize a training and further support to that group. I think that one will make it faster so that we have to optimize the period that we have. Thank you.
Yeah, with the permission of the chair of AgroAllied, where IOD is planning a workshop for agri youth entrepreneurs in July. So that may be a good time to come and pitch the seed entrepreneurs deck, Prof. And
okay, I think that's done.
Yeah. So we will advertise it. Yes. So you can come on board. Dr. Akonde, we lost you because of the network. So can you complete what you were saying about Fashola being available?
So what I said about Fashola in a nutshell is that. So what I will advise them to do is to contact the Oyo State Agribusiness Development Agency Like I said, that Fashola and beyond Fashola, we are doing in Erua. We are also doing in Ijaye now. Of course, Ijaye, I don't want to talk too much about it now because it's not yet finalized. And then in Akufo. And all those places, as I mentioned, are under the first model of the state, which is the public sector built and private sector managed. We have the other that is the private sector developed and public sector supported. And then, of course, the cost sharing with the smaller farmers. What that means is that the public sector is building it, but private sector is going to manage it. Where every single entity, like I said earlier, is going to be managed by a private sector. What will just happen is that we do the valuation of our own investment within that, and that determines our shareholding within that particular entity. There will be an SPV that will be used to manage the place. So invest in that particular location.
Thank you, Dr. Akonde. Now to Ayodeji. A number of farmers applied for CBN Anchor Borrowers Program and the AG MEISCS Fund. It's very pathetic that quite a number of them have been interviewed, and for some reasons, the fund seems to have been suspended, and this is very discouraging. Please, can you guide us on how else small-scale farmers can have access to funding to execute their farm activities?
So other channels or how they can access the CBN financing? Because I have
other
private channels.
Other channels.
So again, when these things work, financing works on the basis of the numbers, right? So you need to have a cluster. So it's easier to finance a pool of 200 farmers growing the same crop in the same area with regular corporate governance around their groups and cooperative structures than it is to finance one or two different farmers that are dispersed. So again, first thing I would suggest is come into groups of cooperatives, have your record, have a bank account over time, and that sort of helps to kickstart the conversation because there's a traction that everybody can see and can follow. The second is that the viability of the crop that you are doing and the efficiency of your farm. So today, if you are doing poultry and you are below 5,000, 10,000 birds, you're unlikely to be viable. So it will be difficult for anybody to finance you. Same thing with different other crops across different parts of the country. So again, you have to bring in that efficiency because that's what gives the financial, the predictability of your cash flows.
Thank you. We have so many questions, and I don't think we'll be able to take it all, but this very practical one, I don't know if Dr. Akonde is back because of the network. They want to find out if there's a livestock section in the Fashola farm. I think this is someone from Ibadan who's very interested in investing in agriculture. And because of time, I'm going to call on Professor Sonny to make a closing statement on the 2021 planting outlook and the role of climate change. And what he thinks generally is the way forward for agriculture in the current climate. So Professor Sonny, your closing statement. Thank you.
Well, I think number one point we need to note is just like what Deji said, there is a greater opportunity for demand of agricultural commodities. So you are sure of off-takers, and that's an incentive. The second major critical point is that there are quite a lot of financing activity going on if you do not have finance. But once you have finance, please get ready and be part of this intervention. Also, the climate change is affecting virtually everything. But for your commodities, you have access to IIT, National Cereal Research, and some other institute for quality seed and drought tolerance maize or cassava or yam, and you have opportunity for that. And the last point is that this opportunity for planting is very important because of the gap between the demand and the supply. There are a lot of demandable commodities and the supply is very minimal. And that is the market opportunity for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Ayodeji, can you give us a closing statement? But I want you to just touch on the issue of agri insurance and how this can also impact the 2021 planting outlook.
Thank you very much. Agriculture insurance is definitely one of the spaces that has evolved very significantly in the last 3 to 4 years. I think the regulator, NICOM, has actually opened that space up from something that was in the exclusive purview of Nigerian Agriculture Insurance Corporation to something where a lot of players now have a large, agriculture portfolio. I know last year that about 600,000 hectares went under insurance cover last year, which is a significant growth from maybe 50,000 hectares a couple years before that. Now, also, when you look at premium payments and other things like that, and the variety of product offerings, we've seen a lot of maturity also evolve there. So it is important. What we've also seen is that pricing is still high for Nigeria. So I always argue when I sit with reinsurers and insurance brokers, I say that it is absurd that countries like Malaysia, Indonesia that have tectonic risks, earthquakes, and even major disasters almost every other year, pay 2% on agriculture insurance, and then Nigeria, where you could put in a seed outside your house and come back in a year's time to harvest the crop, then pays 4 to 4.5% on the average for agriculture insurance. So these are things that are anomalies that, with the larger market size, with a lot more innovation, we should be able to correct for. And that should expand the baskets and provide more cover for farmers. Ultimately, we must continue to find ways to manage the risk of farmers. On a closing note, I think I'm glad, and I put in my words to my father, Chief Okunawo. We're both from Ijebu. We're both Ijebu, so I must for bringing agriculture and giving it the right space at the Institute of Directors, and also for the leadership of the Agriculture Committee, for the push, and Mrs. Olaniyan for your power that keeps all of us going. I think I would like to close on that note.
Thank you. And I would like to close on this note. I think it is imperative that our government invests a lot in artificial intelligence to combat the security issues that affect farmlands and ultimately food security. The use of drones, the use of cameras, the use of native intelligence to get information, to develop security strategies to secure our farmlands will not be too much at this point in the history of Nigeria. Because if we don't secure our farms, if we don't work on enhancing food security, then there's a threat to health, because food is the most important medicine. I thank all the panelists. I thank the IOD, Agro-Allied Committee, and our president for his dynamism. We've lost Dr. Akonde, but he's giving us a lot of insight into what they're doing. At this point, I'm going to hand over back to the Secretariat so that we can hear from our president before we close. Thank you all for being part of this. I hand over now to the president of the Institute of Directors, Chief Chris Okunawo, FIOD. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam. It's been very elucidating. I have always wanted to be a farmer myself, but somehow I think law has held hold of me. But believe me, I think farming is not something that one should go in without thinking it through. I would like to thank all of you. Of course, I'll leave the vote of thanks to the DG, but I must say that I've stayed along, I've heard all the discussions, and I think I'm the better for it. And so would be many other members of our institute who have been listening in. The whole idea of small-scale farming, in fact, is very interesting. Fashola, I remember many years back, that was where I think a lot of people went to buy cattle, even far back in the day. And I think it's a good thing that the Oyo State government has decided to resuscitate that facility. By and large, I think it's been a very fantastic time. I've thoroughly enjoyed myself, and I'd like to thank the panelists as well as the moderator. But I will hand over to the DG to make the closing remarks in terms of the vote of thanks for all the members. Thank you. DG, I yield to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Well, my job has basically been cut in half, and there's been quite a number of appreciation of all of us that are here. And I just want to join the moderator in thanking our wonderful panelist, Professor Lateef Soni. We say a very big thank you. Dr. Debo, we say thank you. And Mr. Ayodeji Balogun, we say thank you very much for the support you are giving this program and for taking time to be here and for the wonderful information, full information you have given everyone present, even for those of us who are standing on or sitting on the wall, or maybe walking on the fringe of whether to put our heads into agric or to stay back because of current situation. What you have told us today gives us some kind of encouragement that the potential is there. And anytime I hear that, when I hear that what is medium is 10 hectares and 20 hectares, I think one thing we also need to do in Nigeria is to look at this issue of acquisition of land. Because I tell you, to acquire 10 hectares of land now, even in the most remote area, is not cheap. And financial institutions are not putting money in those kind of ventures as much as you would have wanted them to do. So maybe that's one other area we'll be looking at within the committee next, the financing of agriculture itself and the various challenges that are being faced by people who want to go into it. Be that as it may, I also want to thank our own Mrs. Felicia Olani, OONFIOD. I want to thank you very much, Ma, for the wonderful way you have conducted this program. We have kept to time and we have been able to answer a lot of the questions that were asked today. And of course, to the chairman of the group, Prince Abimbola Olashuri. That group is one of our most dynamic group in the institute, I must say, and you've been living up, the committee has been living up to expectation. We say a very big thank you to the committee, and of course the reward of hard work is more work. We expect more because agric is seen as one of the new place to go. A lot of lip service has been paid to that sector, but we must continue to let people know that this is the way to go for our nation. We are a nation with vast land, and we need to make those land productive for us. So I want to say a very big thank you. And of course, to my colleague in the secretariat, I also say a big thank you for providing the technical base to making sure that we are all here and nothing has gone wrong. And of course, to the chief host, president and chairman of council, I also say a very big thank you. And I wish us all a very wonderful day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Right. Bye.